Good evening, section crew, and welcome back to the Second Section podcast. I'm your host, Andy Dorsch, and my camera's a little askew because it's still in the boat I'm just kidding, from Gill's Landing. But I'm joined with by my co-host tonight, Mike Ostertag. Mike, how you doing?
Good. So basically, you're sitting in your driveway in the trailer or on the trailer.
In the garage. We're
In
still
the
in the
garage.
boat. We're in the boat tonight. But before we get started here tonight, we do have to discuss one matter of business here. So last week or last podcast, 2 weeks ago on the Second Section, we were live from Gill's Landing, and we had I'll just say a once in a lifetime event happened on a live podcast where the power actually went out. So I just want to, again, thank all the viewers that stayed with us through the technical difficulties, so to speak. And then I also want to thank Luke Lemons for hosting last podcast, David Winther for helping out behind the scenes, Dan Dyer, and Justin Hendrickson. So big hand to those guys. And Mike, I think we should probably check the radar just to make sure we're good for tonight, huh?
For those that weren't tuned in to that, those four guys really actually made the whole thing go really well. It was going good right up until Luke failed to pay his power bill.
Yeah, so just
just as an FYI here.
Mike's in the greater Green Bay area here over on this side, and we're looking live at the University of Wisconsin radar tonight. So Mike, you got some storms headed your way, so hopefully we can get the podcast in before the damage comes. And then down here in good old Ripon, Wisconsin, we're expecting a little bit, but I paid up my power bill this time, so we should be good to go. So So I just want to, again, thank everyone and welcome. So we got about 35 people in the chat tonight. How about you guys go ahead and give us a howdy do, a hello, a shout out, and let us know you're here. I'll go through and let's take a look and see who's all in the chat tonight. Wigwag Workshop is here. Adam Cruz is in the chat this evening. Randy Doman, Roger Coleman, Mike Schenke, Tony Dixon, Thomas Chris. I think we got David Winther here this evening. Soko Olds 455. Welcome back. Tim Moran is here. Justin's back in the house tonight. C&W Mondovi line and HO Scale. Paul, who has got a couple of treats for us tonight on what's on your workbench for that segment this evening. Some fantastic modeling. Jason Young. Dodo One Ops is here, or Brian, he's here. Joe DeLusso, Thomas Imlay, Tom Holly, Happy Valley Hobbies, Clark Cooning is here. Philoloco is here this evening. Mike Polito, Thomas Klomoski back again. GEU30CG is here. And Raymond's Trains is here this evening. So welcome everybody to the Second Section podcast. Again, I want to thank everyone for showing up tonight. And tonight's topics are going to be, we're going to do our famed hashtag not sponsored, where we're going to talk about some new products and some cool things that are happening in the world of model railroading. The ever fan favorite short line of the show tonight is going to be back, and then we'll do hashtag what's on our workbench. And finally, our main topic this evening is going to be getting started in model railroading and talking about that topic. So as a person who's just come back probably in the last 10 years got a lot to say. Oh, look at this. Model Railroad IMRRO.com. I got no love. I must not exist. That's not true. That's not true at all. So, rules of the road this evening are as follows. So, if you have any comments, make sure they're Model Railroad related. If you're going to put them in the chat tonight, I don't want to have to go ahead and kick you out because I'm also the moderator. And again, I'll look to the team here. If any bots join the chat, just let me know. Like, oh, I don't know. Let's see. Looks like Mike's back. So
that's the problem when you have like 20 tabs open at the top of your computer.
High level of production.
Oh my good Lord. I'm sitting there going, I'm trying to back up out of something else. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, where'd I go?
Yeah. So the production value tonight is top rate. So
it's below normal, which is below normal. Which is better than usual.
It's not bad. So we'll get going right away. In our topics here for hashtag not sponsored. So I got a couple things that I want to bring up. Mike, did you have anything tonight for hashtag not sponsored?
I do, but I'm still in the process of trying to bring it up. That's what I was trying to do.
Off.
Go ahead and do your thing.
I'm gonna do my thing here. So we just got a box in the mail here this week. You guys might recognize the Home Shop for Repair Do Not Load. So homeshops.net. They are a manufacturer of Tangent cars for freelance model railroads. So Tangent's been known for their high level of fidelity. And we're going to do an unboxing right here on the air. This is something new. But the Home Shops, what they do is they go and they have some awesome freelanced paint jobs for the Tangent cars. So one of my favorite freelance model railroads is I believe it's Greg McComas's Michigan Interstate. I've always loved that model railroad, and I'm struggling with the unboxing here, but you can see here we got the old Pullman Standard 4750 covered hopper here with the Michigan Interstate logo right plopped in the center there. Just another hashtag not sponsored. I believe Greg, he does a company called MacRail, if I'm not mistaken, where he does some really cool detail parts for cars. So let's see here. We got a couple of awesome comments coming up. CNW Mondovi Line and HO Scale says, hashtag unboxing is difficult. So, and it is. And let me just get this out. And then Justin's got a question in the chat there saying, when are the Mascoutin Valley ones and Wisconsin Midwestern cars being done? Now, I don't know about you guys.
I've actually talked to him about messaging him about possibly doing a Wisconsin Midwestern one, but I haven't sent. It's only gone that far. That's so cool.
Isn't that awesome? I mean, and he's got a handful of roads that he's done in the latest Tangent release of the 4750 PS covered hopper. But he's got a cool website too, and I'm just going to bring that up for my hashtag not sponsored here. So just give me a second while I'm also hashtag not prepared.
I believe he also just made an announcement, or somebody did, that he's doing some 4427 cars, high hip cars
for in HO scale.
In HO scale of some very like the Mesquite lines and a handful of other the Allagash Railroad.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
And there's several of those cars that are coming out. I believe it is June of 23 or January of 23. I believe it's June of 23 that those are supposed to come out.
So what's really cool about the stuff that he does here is, I mean, these are believable, freelance roads here, like the
Oh
Arkansas
yeah,
Valley. I mean, the logos, and the Kansas Pacific's kind of neat. I know it's very Midwesterny Plain Jane, but the West Falls Northern, the TG or the TNGN, and then the Michigan Interstate. So
I actually have some decals from the gentleman that did the West Falls Northern.
yeah,
I had some made up for S scale, so I could have an S scale West Falls Northern car.
yep, and he's also done. I believe is it Christopher Palmieri that owns?
Chris Paul, I think it is Chris Palmieri. Yes.
Yes, who does home shops here, and I got to tell you, not only is just working with him, he puts out a great product, I should say, but working with him, here it is. You're right. Here's the 4427 Allagashes.
Yeah, Cat Mountain and Santa Fe for all of those who have always wanted a classic railroad. Mesquite Belt, that's the one. Allagash, that's a great one.
Montana Northland, that's Neil Roggensack's line, right?
I believe so. Yeah. No. Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
From
It says
River
right
Rail.
up there. Yeah.
Yep.
This one, that one is. You know what that the Neosho Valley lines. That one reminds me a lot of the Illinois Terminals paint scheme, except in reverse.
Yeah,
Because their paint schemes were that red underframe with red sides and the yellow panels. So
there's your Alan McClellan V&O Berwick boxcar coming here from Exact Rail. So he's got some really cool stuff coming out. And I know that I guess it would be my goal someday to have a Mascoutin Valley car, either a boxcar or covered hopper, done up in from home shops. But
it would be really cool if he did like an ACF like 4600 or 46 something 3-bay ACF center flow car.
Yeah,
and you could have one a Mascoutin Valley one for Bentonite service.
Bentonite service, yeah, that would
Bentonite service. That would be up your alley, right? Like perfect.
Yeah. So here we go. Adam Cruz always on the call there with hashtag not ready. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. The production value is super high. Thomas Chris here, the MCIS reminds me of the Ohio Southern, V&O, and Allegheny Midland. Yeah, I think it's true. Like that, this car is, one of the, when I came back to model railroading, Michigan Interstate was one of the first freelance railroads I really liked. And of course, friend of the podcast, Tom Gazier, if they did some ore cars with some split rock logos on there too, that would be pretty slick too. So, but there's some other, Justin says these are going to make me poor. Yep.
Right. Well,
who'd
have ever thought that everybody always talks about prototype railroading, but the freelance, and we've talked about this in a prior episode, but the freelance guys have really taken to heart trying to make their layouts and their railroads believable,
right.
And this is just one more step in that. It's really hats off. That's all I got to say. Just congratulations to all of you guys. It's couldn't be happier for every one of you.
And just to think, like the days of the gory and defeated, right, with kind of the campy, type freelance railroad. Those days are kind of gone, where everything is moving towards trying to emulate the real thing as closely as possible. So Nathan Crabb here, I think this is a valid question. How about some Farland Terminal 4750s? How about it?
Well, that's, you never know what's going to happen.
Never know.
You never know.
And yes, Mike, the freelancers are railroads of lies, but yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, so am I.
It's so much fun for me to do. So, but yeah, so that was one of my hashtag not sponsored this evening. Mike, what do you got going on in the old hashtag not sponsored?
Okay, well, I'm not exactly sure where this guy's at. I want to say he's over. I'm not sure if he's in the United States or if he's overseas, like in Asia someplace. He might be over there, but I'm not sure. But there's a company called Inventive. Let's see, what's the company name? No, I'm totally whiffing on it. Inventive Models. And what this guy has done is he is taking the Sargent coupler to the next level. So all of these are in brass, and I'm just going to blow this up.
Yeah,
these are all castings.
Here, let me see here.
I gotta. Oh, I forgot completely about sharing the screen.
Yeah.
Hold on a minute.
Hashtag
here.
screen share.
Yeah, hashtag screen share. I'm getting there. Just okay. So Inventive Models. He is making the high and low shelf the big, like for coal trains, the Sargent type couplers for those, the low shelf couplers, standard E coupler. I believe he's going to be making the passenger couplers. It just all this stuff based around an updated variation on the Sargents, and these are all 100% Sargent compatible couplers, and they look gorgeous.
They do.
I have here's a comparison of the two. That's kind of a crappy picture. That's a little better. The one on the bottom is a Sargent, and the one on the top is his. And you can see the fit on everything is a little better. It's just the detailing on it is a little bit more crisp. It's just he's taking, because Sargent has decided. I'm not sure if they're not doing HO anymore, or what, but they definitely are limited in production. And here they are coupled together. I swear by the Sargent couplers. I do. I use them on an S scale on mine, and this he's going to be making these in S scale is also coming up soon.
Yeah.
But they are just they just blew me away when I first saw them, and I immediately got a hold of the guy. And it's just, I can't, I'm not sure what his price point is going to be on these, but for anybody that was wanting and had heard the rumors about Sargent not doing, going out of business and yada, yada, yada. If you got Sargents, awesome. Here's an alternative for you. This is actually something to keep your mojo going with that.
Yeah.
And then he's got a couple where he's mounted them to some equipment, and there's one in particular here. I thought this was actually pretty interesting. With somebody put a fret on one, yeah. But
on a WC hopper, no less.
Yeah, here's some. That's kind of what you're going to look at, as far as how they look.
So this is kind of tipping the scale, right? So going back from the freelance to the the very highly detailed prototype here, right? So
right.
I've dabbled in the world of Sargent couplers, and they're great. They look fantastically, real. And in operations, if you have the uncoupling tool, they're quite good in operations as well. They, if they work, if the little magnet and the ball bearing in their work, they're actually pretty slick, and they work a little bit better than KDs. I would have to venture. But for me, the issue is, hundreds and hundreds of cars. Do I have to put each one together? It looks like he's actually assembling these for people as well.
And that I'm not 100% sure on. If he is, that's huge. Yeah. Here you can see, here's one of his low shelf couplers over here on this covered hopper. Yeah. And that looks fantastic, and but you're right. It is, price point does play into it.
Sure.
And I'm not sure how much a set of KDs costs, but Sargents go for anywhere between $12 and $15 a pack, and those are, I'm thinking S scale now. I'm not sure what they are in HO, but you know, that gets to be quite expensive. I mean, I have enough sergeants right now to almost make every car that I have in my house have them,
Right.
but some of them are even the older ones than like some of the original sergeants. But who does a good Lincoln pin?
Yeah. So I gotta ask you a question then. So as the demand for these super highly detailed cars, right? So Mike Shanky says 2 pairs of KDs, $4.99. So $5 for essentially
$5 compared to 14. So you're looking at a
Yeah.
$9 difference. Multiply that times, say, like you said,
But
100.
how many pairs do you get for $14?
I believe you get 2.
And that's an S scale, right?
I believe.
I think
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think
Yes.
I think
Yes.
HO is a little more economical. And I think that's, depending on what style you get too, right? So there's the number 5s or the 58s or the 158s. But this is a question that I'll put to the chat here. As the demand for higher fidelity um, rolling stock and locomotives goes up in the world of model railroading, you notice on the coupler here on a KD, it has a spring. And last time I checked, the real couplers out in the real world didn't have springs, right?
Yeah.
So
it's kind of the compromise, I guess, would be a good way of
right.
putting it. You know.
So do you think a company like Inventive Models will ever start to chew away at the market that KD has out there?
You know, I think it would take some real. I think the price would have to make it so that the price is competitive. You know what I mean? Like right now, it would be. I don't like to use the word novelty because it's not really a novelty. It's just a
Yeah.
different type of coupler. It's like those of people that bought McHenrys compared to buying
Yeah, KDs.
compared to buying KDs, and then eventually went back to buying KDs because everybody knows what the history is with the McHenrys.
Yeah,
But
right.
they were good for a little while. But it's just I don't really feel as if I think it all depends on what you're trying to do with your layout. I think if you're running unit trains of tank, or of coal cars, there's no reason to have them.
Yeah,
Right. I mean, just put KDs on there. I mean, that's all there is to it. I mean, nobody's going to be paying attention in between the cars anyway, because they're never going to come apart.
Yeah.
You want something that's going to be reliable and stuff like that. Not saying that the Inventive Models stuff isn't going to be reliable, but you're going to pay for that. Now, if you're doing a lot of switching and you want to do stuff that's a little bit more closely prototypical with your switching, and you have a little bit more flexibility with space and things like that, maybe Inventive Models is the way to go. You know what I'm saying? It's just, I think it's kind of the classic to each his own, right? I don't think there's any one. I don't think that it'll ever have the same market share as a KD, because people are just it's been so ingrained.
Sure.
But it's going to be fun to watch to see exactly how he comes out with all of these,
Yeah.
So
yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be interesting. And I mean, just going with, how the railroad prototype meets now are starting to get kind of, some popularity, and I don't know, like I have a group of friends, that they're sticklers to detail, right? And they get KD 58s and they throw them out and they put on sergeants, and they have hundreds of cars in their layouts and they operate with sergeants. I don't know. I think someday, I don't know. I think either KD is going to have to change. Maybe that's just me being wishful, but I don't know.
What? Well, yeah, but the thing is, though, is if a company like that, they have a good reliable product, and
Sure.
and so why fix what's not broke, right? It everybody seems to want to buy them. There's still a demand for them.
Sure.
There isn't really a replacement for them. This is just it's not a replacement, it's an alternative. And, if you're doing a competition or something, it might be worth, like, if you're going into a modeling contest of some sort of show or a swap meet or whatever the heck it is, wherever they got those meet things. If you're doing something like that, you might want to think about having a couple sets of those inventive model things to throw on there.
Yeah, right.
So when you go to display it, you've got that there. Now when you take it home, you can take those out, throw the Cadies on, and now you can run with it.
And that's, so don't tell anyone, but that's what I do. So I have my sergeants for the show.
Oh, that explains everything. That explains everything.
That's right. I talked out of both sides of my mouth there, but I don't know. I thought that was and not to bring up a whole debate here during hashtag not sponsored, but
no, it's a healthy conversation, really.
Yeah.
It's a conversation that people don't. It's not uncomfortable. It's just everybody can just do whatever they feel like doing. I mean, HO scale wise, why wouldn't you have Cadies? Right. I mean, the size alone for a Sargent type coupler is, they're not easy to put together. The small, because they've got some small parts. In S scale, they're not exactly a treat to put together, but at least they're big enough to where you're not losing pieces, and it's easier to file things, and it's So my big greasy meat hands getting that in out of the way.
Greasy, get your greasy meat hands out of there. So Eric brings up a really good point here. He says, I'm not concerned about the small minutia. I'm concerned about operations front and center. I have no time to look at the car underbody detail. And I think that's I got some advice. I got some advice from Bob Welke, from the Wisconsin and Upper Michigan freelance railroad, oddly enough, about some of the work that I've been doing on mine and getting in there with a really detailed track. And it's the same thing. If you're really into operations, is anyone going to notice that? And so that's a fine line to walk as well. So very good point, Eric. Boomer Diorama says, I jump to O scale if it's that important. So
but who's gonna know? Like Luke and I have had that conversation. Who's gonna know that something was a Tyco box car when it's 15 cars in? If it looks decent, weathered, has good rolling trucks, has nice couplers on it, and operates properly, and everything is weathered, who's gonna notice that car at all and notice that it's a Tyco compared to a $70 whatever.
Sure.
So
I want to bring up my last,
this is awesome.
My last hashtag not sponsored. So Rapido Trains we talk about them a lot here on the second section podcast. And I don't know if you guys follow them on YouTube. They have some very entertaining videos about their product releases. But they're also, as of late, have been releasing a bunch of cool stuff. And the NSC center beam flat car is one of those things. And this is for the more modern railroader or model railroader. But you see these, if you're in Wisconsin, Upper Michigan, Minnesota, I mean, these things, even down south, these things, Canada, these things are everywhere. And the road names that they're releasing are the trailer train, the NOCL, CPCN, so BNSF and British Columbia as well. So really cool to have the center beam flat. Here's some of the prototypes that they have. They just really look awesome. And of course, their advertisement here, they're also releasing it in N scale for all you N scalers out there. So I know that a lot of the product releases have been neglecting the N scale community, and here on the second section we recognize that. So you're not neglected here in the N scale world. So really cool car, high detail, and I ended up I ended up pre-ordering 3 of these.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so these are going to be coming to my veneer and lumber mill for loadouts of lumber, plywood, and that type of stuff. So they're just cool looking cars, and they kind of fit my setting on my railroad. So I think they're going to make a good fit.
You should order 3 more of a road you don't want, and then just blank them out for Mascoutin Valley.
Yep, that's possibly the plan. But then, silly me also decided that we're gonna grab one of their diesel locomotives too while I
Oh
was at it.
boy.
Yeah, I couldn't resist, right? So I did end up going after and pre-ordering one of the C30-7s in Burlington Northern.
I'd have been
So-
disappointed if you didn't.
Yeah, I know. But there it is. Hashtag spending my money. So
Yeah. Yeah.
but
I
Rapido-
mortgaged the house.
yeah. Yep. So it's for me, it's something that it's fun to do. And again, Rapido's not we're not sponsored by Rapido in any way, shape, or form. We just
No.
happen to like what they put out, and we find them kind of funny. So yeah. So do you have anything else over there for
Nope,
hashtag
not right-
sponsored?
Not
Okay.
right now.
So just a couple of notes here. Justin comes in and says, I'm glad those center beams are way out of my era, but modern era guys are going to be in heaven. That's true. Let's
I
see
just
here.
question what they're going to make them out of. If they're going to make the whole body out of metal, because they would have to be, you know what I mean? Wouldn't weight on that be a little bit of a concern?
I don't know. CNW Mondovi line comes in and says, does anyone make any good transition era rolling stock anymore?
Yeah, come to S scale. We got all sorts of it. That's
There
all
you
we
go.
got.
There you
Like
go.
quite literally, that's almost everything we have in S scale right now. Very, very little modern stuff. It's almost all transition era stuff.
Tangent and Exact Rail do have a handful of transition era. So does Rapido. But yeah, go to S scale. That's where it's at.
Yeah.
Boomer says the Atlas center beams are very nice as well. That's true, they are. Let's see here. Jason Young says he ordered 2 of the BN units himself. I'm guessing he's talking about the C30-7s. Joe DeLuso comes back and says maybe they're made out of resin? Question mark. And then Paul comes back and says hashtag never happened. So
It was just a question, just a suggestion.
yeah, just a suggestion. Very good. Wigwag Workshop question says, when did those center beams start being used? I want to say that they were brought in the 80s, late 70s, early 80s,
like 1980 something.
87. I was wrong. So they were between 87 and the mid 2000s.
Yep, that style right there was.
Yeah.
I have a different style that was
So
a little earlier.
Yeah, a little earlier. So, and then David Winter here with another joke about S scale. I don't hate hashtag. I don't hate myself that much. So,
Nothing but
thanks for being a good sport
but
about
jealousy.
it, Mike. Yeah, thanks. For
I hear
being a good
nothing but
sport.
jealousy.
So that's going to do it for Mike. You said you didn't have anything else. That's going to do it for
Nope.
hashtag not sponsored. So we're going to pull down the old banner here, take a short TV break, and we're going to go ahead and kick her over to the Greasy Meat Hands band here. So we're not paying those guys enough, that's for sure. The Greasy Meat Hands band, everybody. It's time for short line of the show.
Yep.
And
It
Mike,
sure is.
where are we on the big map today?
Well, let's see. We're gonna go to Hawaii because that's the next state.
Okay.
And how can I put this? Possibly one of the more interesting railroad states that's out there, only because it doesn't have a lot that we consider on the mainland to be like major railroads. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
A
Yeah,
lot of them
right.
are sugarcane railroads and small little deals. So I'm just gonna hop right on here.
Okay, so I'm gonna just my producer's telling me don't let him forget to do the old screen share.
I did the screen share. I'm screen sharing already.
Hey, we're screen
Look
sharing.
at
How
that.
about that? Hey, so out to the world of Wikipedia.
World of Wikipedia, and it was the closest I could come to finding a lot of information on this. As you can see, and for those that are in the audio world, on Wikipedia, you just go to Wikipedia and look up Hawaii railroads. It'll come up with a page, and this page is filled with, I would say, every railroad that's ever run in Hawaii. And the ones that are in blue actually have hot links that actually take you someplace. The ones in red are actually links also to a page for that railroad, but there's like I'm going to click on Kona Sugar Company. There's nothing there. So these are all railroads that existed at one time in Hawaii and on what island it is. But as you can see, there's almost no information on any of them. Yeah, it was very difficult. This is a very difficult short line to show. This is going to be a completely different one where we're not focusing so much on one single railroad, kind of focusing on the state as a whole.
State, okay. Sure.
Yeah. So I'm going to start with, I don't even know how to pronounce this. The LKNP. There.
That sounds good.
The LKNP. This one right here. Now, this railroad apparently is still running. It's kind of a touristy thing right now.
Okay.
And it's got 6 miles worth of track. So you can actually, if you go on vacation to Hawaii, you can actually go to this sugarcane location. It's on the island of, the island of Hawaii.
Yeah.
And it was opened in 1970. And it was basically like most places on Hawaii. It was designed to haul sugarcane from the sugarcane plantation fields to the mill. That was what it was designed for.
Sure.
And as far as I can tell, this is still a portion of this is still running, and they use steam, it looks like. And I think they believe they have one diesel, a small little, it says here it's a Plymouth. Yes. A small little Plymouth diesel. And it's, take a closer, there's a picture of one of the engines right there.
Wow.
And kind of open air cars. And yeah, it's kind of a neat looking little engine, actually. The tender's really kind of funky looking. You know, the front end of it looks like typical mainland USA anywhere, but so, it's just one of those deals. Here's a photo of their little Plymouth.
Switcher.
Yeah, little Plymouth switcher. So it's one of those locations where you can go, check it out, ride it. And modeling wise, I wish I apologize, Neil Erickson, for not getting a hold of you before you left to go on your trip, but he would know more about these things than anybody else because he lives on the island. So that's one of them. Another one is they have this Heritage Railways of Kauai. Is that how you pronounce that? Kauai?
Yeah, I think that's pretty close.
I'll
give you an A for effort.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It's like it says here, is added to the National Historic Register of Places in 1979. And again, another one of those railroads that was designed around plantations and around the sugarcane plantations. It was Hawaii's first railroad.
Wow.
Yeah. So you can go and do some research. If you could find, here's a picture of it. Isn't that pretty?
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
Yeah.
So
No.
didn't so let me just stop you here for just a
Yeah.
second. So now I do know that boy, I want to say it was David Frary, the scenery man, right? From the back in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, right? The model railroader, I think from the East Coast. He did some sugarcane narrow gauge, I believe, railroads, but I think his were modeled after the ones in Cuba, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just if you're looking, so for example, if you wanted to model something in Hawaii, possibly do a freelance
Yep.
model railroad, there's some reference material out there for you.
Man, there was
to
a guy
model
that did
that.
that. There was a guy that did that. He was
Yeah,
in Railroad Model Craftsman. I want to say was it Big Island Rail?
might be. I don't know.
Yellow and red locomotives, diesels, modern switch engines, stuff like that he had. And he actually modeled the island of Hawaii, I believe. I believe he
Oh, that's
modeled
cool.
um so you have that. and then you go to the Hawaiian Railway Society.
Yep.
The narrow gauge, it's a railroad museum in on in Iwa on Oahu. I think it's the town of Iwa or Ua, something like that. It's a 3-foot gauge railroad. Again, they have some old Army, I'm sorry, U.S. Navy Whitcombs and an
Mm,
Army 25 tonner.
yeah.
Here's a picture of one of the Whitcombs in their open air little passenger cars. Again, it's just beautiful. It's
Yeah.
just really, really pretty. It would be really a lot of fun to take one of these rides. And again, it's like kind of like a broken record with the state. It's everything is surrounded around, for the most part, around one commodity, and that's the sugarcane industry.
Sure. Sure.
Um,
And it looks like it was either that or possibly military influence,
or
right?
military influences.
Right,
Yep.
with the bases there. So
Yeah. And a lot of the problem is a lot of the railroads in the state of Hawaii ended like between like 1925 and the mid 50s.
sure.
So, I mean, everybody knows, what happened, in 1941. That probably had a great deal to do with influencing, a lot of these that had to shut down and never really regained anything to, come back. So, it's just, it's a very interesting state and a very difficult to do. But they have some really neat looking things.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that is really cool is in Honolulu, for those that like light rail stuff,
Oh,
they are building a elevated light rail corridor. So there's going to be legitimate light rail passenger traffic in and around Honolulu within the next several years.
yeah.
So let's see, December of 2022, the first phase, it says here, is going to be done, and then phase 2 should be done right 2031.
Oh, wow. Have to keep
Eh,
our eyes out for that.
well, if you go to Hawaii and you need to get from one end to Honolulu, you need to go someplace, have an option to get off the roads and take the train.
Yeah.
So I don't know that there's much more I can say. I do want to apologize for not having more content for this segment, because I try to have information overload. It's just not there.
Sure.
It's just hard. There's a lot of information on these railroads that kind of went defunct, like the Hawaiian Railway. It was deactivated in 1915.
Yeah.
And it was constructed in 1912. or no, I'm sorry, it was constructed in 1915 and went in 1899 and deactivated in 1915. Sorry. So that's a long, long time ago. So the likelihood of finding a lot of information, like especially on the mainland, on it is pretty low. So it's just go out there and have fun with it. Hawaii is an interesting place. Be cool to do like a little shelf layout type
Yeah.
of thing with this, like a real small, if you have like a real small apartment type place and you want to try dabbling with and messing around with different types of modeling, or before you get into your building your really big layout, maybe think about doing something from Hawaii, something small from the 1930s or 1940s or 20s or earlier.
Yeah,
you know?
and talk about a good way to get started in the hobby, right? Or get started
Yeah.
in model railroading, right? Nothing better than a small little, possibly a sugarcane line that has all, you can have your backdrops with the mountains or volcanoes in the background, right?
Yeah.
Palm trees, different types of grass. I mean, the sceneries and the different equipment that you could have is kind of a neat little project in and of itself. So
Or if you want to do something, try something indoors on a larger scale. Like maybe do something with an indoor G scale layout of some sort or something along those lines. It might work for something along like that if you have enough space. Or
the light rail thing too, right? That's something up and coming if you want to do modern. So again, so I'm gonna before we wrap up this segment, Mike, I do want to just make a note. So to our section crew in the chat tonight, or if you're catching it on the audio replay, if you have any information about Hawaii railroads that you'd like to share with the section crew, make sure to stop over at the Second Section Facebook page, or Facebook group, excuse me, and just ask to join. We'll get you joined up. Doesn't cost anything. There's no real weird questions. Just come on in. We got a nice little community there that's sharing some really cool stuff about model railroading. So make sure that you check out not only our YouTube channel to make sure you're catching up with all the live streams and all the family fun here, but if you want to extend the community, go over to that Facebook page, Second Section Podcast, and let us know what you guys know about the Hawaiian railroads. So,
yeah, absolutely. Next month or the next time we do one is going to be, we're going coming back to the mainland, and we're going heading towards the Pacific Northwest. We're gonna go to Idaho.
I like Idaho. That's old Milwaukee Road country, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit of everybody country, to be honest with you. But yeah, we got a little Great Northern over there, a little bit of Northern Pacific, some Milwaukee Road, maybe a little bit of Union Pacific in certain spots.
Yeah. That's gonna be that'll be an interesting one. Wonder how many short lines are out there. Oh, Camas Chris, he lives in Idaho.
Camas Chris, there's one right there. I believe the Camas Prairie Railroad, I believe, is one, which is a joint line between the BN and the UP, if I am correct. Chris, let me know if I'm correct.
There you go.
If I'm wrong, Andy will send you $10.
Okay. I think that's goes back to hashtag never gonna happen.
Hashtag never gonna happen.
Hashtag never gonna happen. So hey, I got to give you some props there, Mike. We all knew that Hawaii was going to be the tough one, right?
Yeah,
and you did really good there. So
thanks. I didn't know what else to do. It was kind of, I didn't want to skip it. It wouldn't be right to skip it. Delaware was very hard.
Yeah,
there are some states that are just tough.
Yeah,
it's just. But thank you. I appreciate it. Hawaii. Just don't ask me to do Guam. That's just
we'll
not
keep
gonna...
Well, for season 1, we'll keep it to the 50 states, and then maybe season 2, if we get signed back up here by our producers, maybe we'll do the territories and beyond, or Canada, right? That could be next on the list.
Or maybe maybe we go to points beyond.
Mm.
Venezuela,
Yeah.
Brazil, Chile,
Ooh, India. Oh man.
Jordan, New
Yeah.
Zealand, Australia.
Now we're just showing off about what we know about geography. So
Maybe we'll do some live remotes if the budget's in for it. That ain't
yeah, we
gonna
got to
happen
get
either.
some budget. We
That
got
ain't gonna
budget.
that ain't gonna happen either.
We got to get a budget. Well, very good, Mike.
Yeah, thank you.
So we're gonna go ahead, take a short TV break here. We'll kick it over to the Greasy Meat Hands Band once again to introduce our next segment. All right. So if you like the funky tones from the Greasy Meat Hands Band, that usually means it's time for What's on Your Workbench. So tonight, we've got a very interesting and very awesome group of models on What's on the Workbench, and then we'll also be awarding the most utilized workbench out there tonight as well. We'll keep in line with that little inside joke that we have going on. So,
Yeah.
Mike, I started off hashtag not sponsored. Do you want to start off with what's on your workbench?
Sure.
And
All right.
what's on your workbench tonight?
All right, here we go. This is gonna be. I'm gonna go to my share screen.
Hold on, the producer's giving me the head nod here. You got to share your screen, Mike.
Yeah, I'm sharing my screen. All right, here we go. And oh wow, that's terrible.
That's pretty.
First thing is, can we all see that?
I think we can see some stuff. Yes.
Okay. I was trying to figure out a kind of pseudo inspired by the auger that Mini Prince just made.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, boy, I don't really need one like that yet, but wonder if I could make a small one out of just styrene shapes. So I took a piece, my little grate that I made down here, for a fertilizer plant. Now this is going to be for salt unloading. And so I took the another part. Now, obviously, this is not completed, and I just took some rectangular tube, made a few cuts, and made myself a little unloading. What would you call that?
It's just like a little unloading chute.
A little unloading chute, yeah, like a. And that's basically what this is. Here you can see the
grate there,
the grate under the tracks, and then for unloading, and then it comes up. And obviously, like I said, it's not finished. But I thought I did have a picture, and I forgot, I can't find it, but I do have a picture of one that was in Green Bay where the chute was brought up. It was up by the conveyor, but that's the word I was looking for. A conveyor, unloading conveyor, and when it came out, it actually hit a board and fell down into the car instead of going shooting out. It actually hit a board and comes down. And I thought, well, I just have something that kind of semi-directs it down into where I want it to go.
Yeah, right.
And that's what I just started working on it like this. Now I know I have to finish doing those supports and the other things and make it look relatively realistic. But this is one of the two things that I had for what's on my workbench, because
that's kind of awesome.
I'm actually kind of proud of the way this one turned out. It just kind of turned out really neat.
So that's a scratch build deal, right? So
yeah.
And so let me ask you, how difficult was that to put together? Was it fear, just fear inspiring and paralyzing? Oh my God, I got to scratch build this item and it's gonna suck.
In all honesty, if you'd have asked me that question 2 or 3 years ago, I would have said I never would have done this.
Yeah.
And again, I have to blame Luke Lemons. He's to blame for almost everything I do nowadays. So if you stop and use Luke's theory of its basic shapes, look at it as basic shapes. We have a rectangle that's just on an angle. Okay, so I chose a rectangle. I cut an appropriate angle on the bottom, and when I was happy with that, I this was at one time a long stick. I just started cutting. I cut a V out of it, but not all the way through, and I just bent that down and glued it in place. And I did the same thing for where this little flap is supposed to be, except for I removed the bottom 3 sides of the rectangle. And I obviously, you can see I have to sand that some more, but that's how I did it. And the hardest part about this was getting it to stay glued in this position, because I really could have used a third or fourth hand.
Yeah.
But as far as a scratch build project, to get the project at this point, it was just, you see enough of them, you see enough angles, you understand what the purpose behind it is, you can just go build it. And I know it sounds really easy to do and just kind of laissez-faire, easy for me to do. I've been doing this for a while. But if you're just really starting out with a scratch build project, you can grab some pieces of styrene and just start putting things together and see what you make.
That's right.
You're probably going to surprise the heck out of yourself that doing, and you're going to end up doing something you never realized you were able to do. And then you're going to have the itch, because now I scratch built this great, and it turned out really good. And I'm actually really looking forward to seeing how this whole project ends up being once I have it painted, weathered, finished, completed. This is actually the first detailed scene I'm doing on my layout. So I'm going to be really interested to see how far I go on this. I'm going to have some decisions I need to make. So,
well, I mean, I really like how you have the grate in there, and it's a real, even just that chute itself is a little tiny scene on its own.
right.
That conveyor, right? Or that auger, whatever you have, what we're calling it. I think that's going to be really cool. Not only just for operation purposes, but just the detail that you're putting into it. I think it's going to really turn out great.
Well, thank you. And for those of you that are kind of wondering, in the video portion of the podcast and in the audio portion, I don't know exactly what the scale height of this thing is, because I didn't measure it as a scale height. Believe it or not, I took the larger piece and I actually backed my truck up to where I wanted it to be unloaded. And I just put a mark on the styrene
just to make it look right.
That's the height I want this to come at. And this is where I want the bend at. And then that's where I cut the bend. And then I made the other bend. And that was how I determined the height. There was no mathematical, Einstein equations of any sort. It was just, eyeball, this looks good enough. This looks about right. And that's where I was, because I'm not trying to go into the covered hopper like this like this shows right here. Right. If you look, they'd never make the covered hopper. This is strictly for loading into a truck. Right. So, that's the first thing. Now, do you want to go to one? Because I have one more.
No, you're locked and loaded. I'm
locked and loaded.
Let's do this. Let's keep rolling.
All right. Now, pre-size models.
Pre-size models. Hashtag not sponsored.
Hashtag not sponsored. Hashtag please make more. They have come out with these we were talking about center beam flats earlier. The pre-size models in S-Scale has come out with a beautiful resin kit of these 12 window opera style bulkhead flat cars.
Yeah, the center beam
bulkheads. Yeah, center beam flats. They've come out Milwaukee Road, Burlington Northern. I have both of those. Union Pacific, British Columbia Railway.
They're beautiful.
TTX, and those are the 5. I believe that might be it. But if I'm missing one, I apologize to pre-size. But these are absolutely beautiful. and the one I'm doing right now is Milwaukee Road. So you can see there's one detail that I have to remove on the pre-size model that the Milwaukee Road doesn't have, and I'll show you here in a little bit. But it's right here. On the pre-size model, there's an oval right here, like almost like it's supposed to go all the way through, like a handhold. And it's not on the Milwaukee Road models. The Milwaukee Road did not have those. So I'm going to have to remove that. I just noticed that when I was putting this together. And the beautiful thing is, now here's one that Milwaukee Road actually repainted some of them in this gray scheme. It's just plain gray with the lettering on the bottom.
Yep.
They're actually really sharp looking. I want to do one like this too. But the actual, now I've got to try to figure out how to get out of this without hurting myself. Hold on a minute.
If you hurt yourself in the podcast, second section is not liable for any injuries sustained.
Oop.
Here we go.
Here's the kit out of the box. And it's a resin kit. They come complete with decals, no trucks, no couplers, nothing like that. You supply those. But your basic kit, and I sat down last night and I cleaned up the windows and sanded them and started squaring things on just the 4 pieces. The instructions for these are all online at if you go to presizemodels.com, I believe it is.
Yep.
And it's majority S scale stuff, but I believe they might have other scales too. I don't pay attention to anything but the S scale stuff, honestly. But the kits just this is what it's looking like right now.
Yeah, it's starting to come together.
This isn't even glued together. Here, these things right here. See that little oval right there? Yeah, I'm gonna have to sand that off of there because this is the Milwaukee Road one. So I'll just sand that one right off of there. But I still have to sand you can see all the flash that's on here on the bottom. I have to sand that yet. I have a little bit more detail sanding. One good thing is if you're doing resin kits and everything, some really nice sanding sticks are almost a must, because you do want to be able to have, because the resin kits, they will sand really fine.
Yep.
And some real fine grit sandpaper also helps, like 800,000 grit, 1,200, 1,500 grit sandpaper, because sometimes you just need a little bit off. And this is a little tight yet. I have a little squaring left to do to it, but this is as she sits right in front of me right now. This is how it sits right now. It's a gorgeous model.
Yeah, it's really beautiful, Mike. I mean, please keep us posted on the progress.
I certainly will. And it's on I'm also posting, I believe I posted some progress on it on my Farland Terminal page. Okay. On YouTube, or not on YouTube, on Facebook. So Farland Terminal page. And it's gonna be a lot of fun. I can't wait to see how this one turns out. This is the most excited I've been for building a kit in a long time. And the beautiful thing about it is I sat down for like an hour, maybe yesterday, hour and 20 minutes, and I was able to get all that cleaned up. And I wasn't rushing myself. The flash was not super thick. It didn't come off hard. I had 1 or 2 little small parts, but everything is peg and tab with this.
Really?
So there's actually, in order to keep it square, the top, I'm gonna probably, I'm gonna share one more time here quick, if you don't mind.
Yeah, while you're getting that fired up there, Ken Zeska had a question. Will it need added weight?
You know what, Ken? It comes with, right up here, it does come with a lead weight to it. As it sits right now, I don't know. It feels, with that lead weight on it, it feels a little beefy. Now, you also have to remember, you put a load onto this, that's going to add extra weight too, right? So, and there is a web page out there, and I can't remember what it is, but you can actually download and print lumber wrappers from various eras.
We had that as a
I think
discussion point on a previous show.
show. Yes, we did.
Yes.
So
I'll put that in the show notes afterwards. I'll update
Yeah.
that.
But yeah, Ken, I don't know. I should go and run upstairs here and just scale it quick, but I'll do that later and I'll post it. But as you can see, see the two pegs right here on each end.
Mm-hmm.
They match up with the holes on the bottom of the bulkheads, and so your bulkheads go right there, and then this little tab right here and this little tab right there go into little slots right dead in the middle of the right square and center in the middle of the bulkhead, and that squares the whole car automatically.
So that's pretty well engineered then.
It's very well engineered, and the tolerances between here, but between the horizontal little built-in risers here and the vertical portions is very minimal. There's not a lot of slop there either.
Wow.
There's not a lot of space. So the biggest thing is, and this is one of the things why I said I need more sanding, is the one thing I figure out which page. There we go. Is if you look real close, I'm going to try to zoom in.
Hey, there we go.
If you look real close, I'm off by just a hair here on some of these where it's just offset enough to put more pressure on these outer bulkheads. I need to sand both of these the center beam portion. I need to sand this a little bit more in order to get these to line up more square and take the pressure off of the bulkheads, and everything will be perfect. It is a very well engineered, well thought out, very, 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 very nice. Finally, thank you, modern type car in S scale. But it's a resin kit, and don't be afraid of resin kits. Resin kits are awesome. They can be a lot of fun to do. They can be a pain, but they can be a lot of fun. So that's what's on my workbench.
That's awesome, Mike. That's great modeling, and that's really, really cool to see you making progress on the layout and making some progress on some cool models for equipment for your layout. So
thank
excited
you.
there. Yeah, I'm gonna.
So what do you have going on?
I don't do much.
No, you never do nothing.
I'm not doing much.
No.
So this is what we got going on my workbench here. So this is on my Facebook page for my model railroad called the Mascoutin Valley. You can check that out over there. But basically, I'm building a mini scene here that is going to be in the background of my lumber company, and I'll be going and essentially screwing this down. This is a scene I built on 3/16 birch plywood. Maybe, I think it's 3/8 birch plywood. And then I added some actually pre-mixed floor grout to get the texture for the gravel roadway. And essentially this is going to be the line side or the rail side portion where the log unloader comes in and pulls the logs off of the cars. So you can see I got a log pile set up there, some texture pieces and some just blown apart logs and stuff like that starting to take shape here.
Now that floor grout, you can get that in different colors, can't you?
Yes, you can. So
is that coming like in a can, or is it come in a bag, or how does it come?
Yep. So you go to Ace Hardware or any home center, and you can get some pre-mixed grout. Comes in a variety of colors. Actually, the color that I used here was like an almond color.
Wow.
So I went back over the top of it with some Vallejo scenic texture.
Oh, wow.
The dark earth color. And what I did was I diluted it because it's an acrylic based texture paste type thing with some paint mixed in it. And I just mixed some stuff up, diluted it, and then painted it over the almond, so you could still maintain that grout, almost gravel type texture, without blowing it away with the Vallejo stuff. And it turned out, I thought, pretty good. When you see it, the picture doesn't really do it justice, but I do have a slight tip here, something that I learned, and I will never not use this product on scenery ever again. My life has been changed. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and bring this up on the StreamYard here. So I will never use Scenic Glue again. The Woodland Scenic stuff, done. The homemade Elmer stuff, done. I am going to use matte medium from now on. This stuff is absolutely
That's not
amazing.
expensive either, is it?
Well, this bottle, it wasn't bad. It's on par with the Scenic Cement, but the matte medium, I can use it full strength, diluted, and shake on my scenic textures and do all sorts of basic scenery type adhesive stuff, and it stays locked in. So that log pile, so that log pile that you saw, that was hand cut twigs that I found in the yard, and then I glued that all together with matte medium. And so Boomer Diorama said, it's the best medium you can use for so many purposes. Good stuff. I gotta be honest, I watched his channel and got the tip. So
that his channel, Boomer.
Yeah. Hashtag not sponsored.
Hashtag not sponsored, but buddy, I tell you what.
Yeah.
You have effectively ruined my scenery life. Thank you very much.
and
go check his stuff out.
Yeah. And I gotta say, it's changed my life. So he talks about the differences between you can use carpenter's glue or some other things, but I gotta say, I like I said, I can put this stuff on diluted or full strength, and it turns out fantastic. And he's got, I gotta say, I've always kind of like, oh, come on, this is art stuff. It's not made for model railroad. It's not made for adhesive. I was totally wrong, and I'll never go back. So
yeah, I've got to go and grab a bottle of it too. And I've watched a couple of his videos, and I'm sitting there going, he makes everything look so easy, right?
Yeah.
And it's just kind of one of those things where I'm just like, all right, well, I used to do this. Now I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do this, and well, that'll work.
Yeah, exactly, right. And it's just it actually was like, okay, I'm gonna try it and see what happens. And the barrier of entry was very low on this, and you could all sorts of stuff you can use this for. You can, and Boomer's talking here. He says you can use it to do small parts on models as well. So there's that bit of adhesive that's in here, and I'm not a mixologist or a chemist that could tell you what the properties are and why it works, but as a user of it, I'm pretty happy with it. So very, very very positive things to say about matte medium on that little, it's like a 4-inch by 28-inch strip of scenery that I'm putting together. So yeah, so that's what's on my workbench. I think it's time to go and check out the section crew.
Yeah, people are done listening. We're tired of listening to us.
Listening to us. They want to see their stuff on screen. So we're gonna do hashtag not ready here, Mike, unless you have it up.
Oh no, I don't have
No,
it
you
up.
want me
No.
to?
Yeah, you go
Um,
right ahead.
I'll just do stuff and things here. So we'll talk about what's on the workbench. So there's a post out here that Mike had up. Let's just take a quick peek here. And I'll do a little soft shoe as I'm trying to share my screen and sing into the microphone. Here we go. All right, so we'll bring some stuff up here. Okay, so we got quite a few posts to get through. So Mike kicked it off with his beautiful resin kit by Precise Models. Into the comments we go. And there's 30 previous comments to get through here. So, oh yeah, well, we saw Andy's.
Yeah, we saw
Adam-
Andy's. Hey,
Adam-
wanted to ask you about that. What size? Like, are you going to hide the screws on that somehow? Or how are you going to hide the screws? Do you have something to go over the top of that with?
On this thing?
Yeah, when you go to screw the board down, how are you going to screw
Yeah,
it?
so I'm going to be using matte medium.
Okay.
And I'm going to be doing some static graphs tufts using matte medium and kind of dressing those up as some like low bush type stuff that are going to
Something that you can mark though, some kind of marking,
Yep.
so you know where the screws are, so you
And
know
then I
that
can
that's where
take
the
it
screws
out
are. Yeah,
if
yep.
I were to, move layouts or something like that. And here's another thing, that the wood there, that was weathered with taco sauce.
Nice.
So that's the Tamiya
nice.
washes. So anyways, let's enough talk
Look,
about
enough
that.
about that. Yeah,
Adam Cruz, here we are.
that's a
this
heck
has
of a
been his-
model, dude. That's
a
awesome.
really good looking 1-to-1.
Very realistic.
Yeah. And looks like he's got a fox
Hey,
here.
It's
A little
foxy.
yard dog. Yeah. So very cool, Adam. Thanks for sharing. Let's see what else we got here. Paul Kassar. Look at this. So he's doing an Alco here. It's a first freelance loco for the Riverbelt line.
I like the simplicity of that.
Mhm.
It's
This
just
really
it is
looks
just
good.
it looks just very, very cool.
Yep. And you can see here that he's got the custom decals by Highball Graphics. Really looks good, and it's coming along nice. So well done, Paul, on your first freelance loco. Very cool. Let's see here, Clem Harris here. Oh, he's weathering. He's looking to start an N scale ground war here. Looks like we got some armored personnel carriers up here. I'm guessing he's doing a DOD train of some sort. Looks like we got a bulldozer there. And there's some good comments there, some good camaraderie from some of the section crew. But yeah, look at this. Very
I like
nice.
the way he's got that deck weathered. That thing looks
Yeah.
cool. Awesome job.
Yeah, very good. Nice job, Clem. Let's see here, Paul August. Now this just came off his workbench. It's an old Timberline kit that he repaired and updated and detailed. So this is really, really good stuff, Paul.
What is it about taking an old kit that you've had laying around, or an old building that you've had laying around for years, and just taking it and making it so much more like ultra realistic? It's so satisfying to watch stuff like this happen.
Yeah, look at the boards he's got on the roof there to hold the tar paper down, the smoke jack. Yeah, that's some pretty good stuff, Paul. Yeah, wow. Oh, and then this is across the room from his workbench. Look at that.
Nice.
People there. This is what he's got going on for the Mondovi branch line. Well, this is really good stuff. You notice how he doesn't have anything except for like real models that he's built accumulated on here. There's no pop bottles or anything like that. No tools.
Are we sure he's even a modeler?
I don't know. Yeah. He's really good at modeling. His workbench is always clean, and his layout doesn't have any clutter on it. So
either he's doing something wrong or we are.
Yeah, I think it's us.
It probably is.
All right, here we got Paul Bitkowski, and he's scratch building an S scale PS2 CD 2-bay 3,300 cubic foot cover.
Yeah,
copper.
I've been watching some of his progress on this. This is just, he's doing a great job.
That's a really, really awesome model that he's building. The attention to detail there with I almost want to say it looks like he's got some 3D printed parts there.
Yeah, I
with
believe
the
they are.
the brake rigging.
Yeah, but just he's doing great. This is I'm jealous.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's doing fantastic.
Yeah, and very good, Paul. William Sampson coming in with the General Mills head house continues. So
I found this so interesting.
this is really cool. So the Walthers head house and silo height compared to the actual prototype. So look, so the comment here, there's a comment here, and I'm just going to share that. So William Sampson says the General Mills prototype head house stands 180 feet tall. The Walthers is 95. That's almost 2 times the size.
Right.
I mean, this has just got to be a domineering structure on a layout, and to build it at that scale height, that is remarkable.
And yet it's low relief.
Yeah.
So it's not like it sucks up a lot of space. He's actually designed and built. And for those of you, we'll get to this in our topic a little bit. But for those of you that are thinking about starting to build a layout or trying to work on making their layout better, just remember you can always build your structures into the layout before you actually lay track. This is a great example of that. You know, he didn't put the track so close to the wall that he couldn't fit the building in.
Right.
You know?
Right. Exactly. No, this is really well done. And yeah, I know, right? I can't get over it. Right. Because
yeah,
it's a huge building.
And like you said, it's going to dominate that portion of the scene. Right.
Yeah. Right. But it's really going to give you the sense that it's like you're there.
Yeah.
Here's just a picture to follow up. So this is the head house versus the Walthers. You can see the arrows here, right? Kind of showing this is where the Walthers one would end here, and then here's the rest of it on top of it. So
expect that to be done next week, William.
Yeah, and a full report.
And a full report
on that too. Let's see here. Oh, and you got some drone footage of it as well, and probably couldn't get clearance to fly the drone that high. But yeah, really cool. Nice stuff here. Okay, Tony Dixon. Here we got some Kelly's Heroes in 1/64th S scale. Nice little, looks like
those are coming along pretty nice.
Willie's Jeep there and the crew here. Very good. Oh, and now, so we got to comment on the workbench just a little bit. So look at all the other projects he has in the background here. And then he still has about maybe 3 to 4 square inches here to actually do the work on. So I think he's up there with maximizing his workbench space. That's for sure.
He's still got way too much to work with though.
You're right. And like, see, look at this. Here's a project within a project in the background here. So he's got the cargo load in this truck, so that's efficient use of space there. That's 2 projects. The truck and the load could be 2 separate things.
And we can't have that in the hobby. We can't have efficiency like that.
I think, and then you could stack a few more loads on there too. So yeah, I give him props. He's working with a nice little space here, but yeah, there's certainly a lot of space over here. We could stand some more people up. Yeah.
It's a cool little thing he's got going on there too.
No, Tony, that's a really cool scene though, with the vehicle and the figures. All right, Philip Dimmer, finishing up a couple of Red River Valley and Western Jeeps for the Eastern Dakota and Wilkin. Oh, we're doing some DC. Looks like some DCC fun here. That's some cool looking locomotives there. Clean workbench. Look at this. That's so clean. Very nice.
Yeah.
And here they are finished. Look at these.
Those are sharp.
Good looking locomotives.
Those are very, very sharp.
I like it. I like the lighting effects on them.
I mean, that's a real railroad. Boy, I wish I knew if those are actually real engines, or if they are like proto freelance type stuff.
I think Tom Gazier says Fubi. Is that right? Like a stand-in?
Might be, because I know they're sort of
Oh,
Red River Valley Western is associated with Twin Cities and Western, right?
yeah, it's a similar paint scheme, right?
Yeah, well, I think they're sister companies, so it's or TCW I think owns the RRVW, but something. But I don't know if they actually have these type of engines or not anymore, so or at all. So, but regardless, they are sharp. These
Yes,
are
they
really
are.
cool looking.
Nice weathering on the trucks and the fuel tank as well.
That's
Nice,
what I got to learn how to do.
it's not overblown, right?
Right.
Yeah. Looks
Very
good.
realistic.
Very realistic. Yes. Very good. Well done, Philip. John Whithouse here on the workbench is my impromptu edition of the Cara Terminal Railway Elko C420 number 920. This is a
Now,
heavily modified, detailed Riverosi.
Now I've just started following John's work since I went to the modelers retreat in Minneapolis.
Yep.
And I don't know, like he had a I believe it was a C420. He only had the one. He is very good at doing a T6, an Alco T6. He's got a bunch of them.
Really?
Oh yeah, and I tell you what, that is actually my favorite Alco switch engine. And but it seems like he's kind of starting to lean towards the 4-axle road units, and I'm wondering if he's trying to like broaden his horizons here a little bit. Oh, they're X-Pen Central units. That's nice.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I'm just
excellent.
Getting back.
Thank you very much, Isaac, for looking that up. Yeah, thank you very much. That's awesome.
Yeah,
my whole life is a Fubi.
That's classic. But yeah, this is fantastic. Thanks, John, for sharing.
Yeah, John, that's awesome work.
Look, and I put just for everyone out there in the chat tonight, I did put a link in the live stream chat, the Facebook for his Cara Terminal Railway. So check that out. All right, Robert Thomas. Oh yes, here we go.
Yeah.
So some progress on a Westerfield resin kit on the inside post wood gondola.
Westerfield kits are no joke. Those are
Frisco. Yes,
those are no joke for a resin kit. Those are
them and the Tichy
kit. Ones. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like them too.
Love love the truss.
The bridge.
I love the truss rod underframe on that. That's really neat.
This
but
is
the
just really
the whole scene is awesome.
Yeah, this is just a fantastic scene. So well done, Robert, and model's looking great. The detail underneath is looking fantastic. So look forward to see this one get done.
Yeah.
All right, Jason Young. Here we go. Working on my module for my club's West Wisconsin Railroad Club Fremo layout.
I like this.
Waiting on some KT decals for the gas station and some other small details. So this is, I mean, and if you could get a guy in a black Chevy Silverado sitting out here in front of the KT hammering a sausage, egg and cheese croissant sandwich, that would probably be me right there.
And if you want to put two of them and have one with a Milwaukee Road decal in the vinyl in the back window, and I'm yelling at the other guy that we need to go.
Yeah, that would be a very realistic scene. So yeah, this looks really cool. I like the KT and then the backdrop there too with a nice, looks just like Western Wisconsin, right?
Oh,
with
absolutely.
The hills and the fields and stuff like that. So Jason's shaping out to be a pretty awesome scene. It's like we added a little comment here. Oh, yep. And here's a little detail on the Quick Trip.
Yep. Who'd have ever thought about modeling a Quick Trip? You know, that's just, they're all over the place in the state of Wisconsin.
Right. I mean, wonderful gas station / restaurant /
Hashtag not sponsored.
Boy, if we got sponsored by Quick Trip, though, holy
Oh
cow,
man.
we gained 300 pounds.
Yep.
All right. Let's see here. Ken Zeska, looking forward to hearing your thoughts on the pre-sized kit. So we did that tonight. Chris Haddo. He's trying to figure out why I only get sound but no movement.
Oh.
Well,
just I don't know anything about what you have going on here. It looks like it's a Proto 2000 potentially. Just looking at but if it's a new decoder, maybe have the polarity to the motor wired backwards, or it may not be isolated properly under, the motor might not be isolated properly. You might be shorting somehow or whatever. But if it's an older decoder, the motor functions may have just gone and gone bye-bye on it. The motor functions might just have gone bad.
Really?
I've had a few old Digitrax decoders before I had sound do that to me, where I had lighting functions but I couldn't get them to move to save my life, and it was I believe it may have been Dan Dyer, buddy Dan Dyer, that kind of looked at it and said, "Oh yeah, your motor functions are shot." And I was like, "Oh, okay, well, time for a new decoder."
Well, you know what, Chris, we got a savvy group of DCC folks here on the Facebook page. You know what? Maybe post a little demo of what's going on, and
if you can, take a little video of what you got going on there, and maybe somebody can
jump in and help out. We got a lot of smart folks that know the DCC wirings ins and out and how to troubleshoot them real well, myself included. So feel free to either send me a PM or.
One other thing too is I can't really tell if he has the wires soldered where the motor functions are and stuff, or if they've got those little plastic push things that are in there.
Yep.
If those are push things are in there, that the exposed portion of the wire may have gotten cut or flipped off, and therefore you have no actual contact being made inside that wire. It's connected, but there's nothing actually making contact with any of the copper that's on that decoder.
Yep.
So you might if it's, I can't really tell if it's soldered. Oh, well, then it might be something else.
There's a whole host of things.
It could be anything. I'm just going off the top of my head, right? Just spitballing, be honest with you.
Or if the wire to the motor where the contact is on the motor is bad too, that's another place to look. So
yeah.
Yep. So yeah, post what you got going on, and maybe a nice little close up of what's going on in the decoder there, and maybe some folks from the section crew can give you a hand. All right. Robert Wachowski. Looks like we got an ex-Wisconsin Central ballast hopper now patched for his home road, the Central and Eastern, and he's got it all weathered up. And
I love the makeshift reporting marks on there. I love that. Yeah, that screams short line.
It sure does. Sure does. And looks like he's got the FRA reflective tape on there too. Yep. That's really cool. Good job, Robert. Nice scene he's got shaping up here. I'd like to see that. Let's see here. So we got Greg Gay.
Hey, Housatonic Railroad. Look at that.
Housatonic. Here we are. That was a former short line of the show, was it not?
It was. Yes, it was.
Hey, how about that? So this is the before picture. Now, we're going to talk about his workbench in a little bit. Let's get to the model here and look at the after. What a great job.
Yep, that looks fantastic.
It's got the Fred here too. Look at this. Greg, if you're out there tonight or possibly later, can you tell us what kind of car this is? I want to say it looks like either an Exact Rail or maybe an Atlas.
Could that be one of those Berwick kits?
I don't know.
One of those blueprint models. Could it have
Maybe
been a blueprint model kit?
could be. I don't know. But so we gotta talk to Greg here about his usage of. I mean, we got what does it look like Spider-Man here in the background? That's cool. Got to have that. But then look at all this. I mean, he could have weathered 6-7 cars in this space.
There's way too much room there.
But look at the battle scars on his cutting mat here. This thing's been used.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
fantastic job on the weathering, Greg. Really good.
I do like the old Ford stake fan on the side.
Isn't
though.
that? Yeah,
It is
that is cool. Chris Stilson. Oh my gosh, look at this. So he's test fit on the layout, but the Hooker Chemical building is coming along nicely. I'd say so. This is really looking good. And it says it's an HO scale kit bashed from a Kirby kit.
Kirby. Holy cow, I haven't heard that name for a long time.
Throwback.
Yeah.
Well done on the mortar lines here. Look at what he's got going on with the fill-in windows and then the mortar lines here. This is really good.
That's so cool.
Well done, Chris. Now, it looks like he's got. Are these catenary lines?
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna. I would love to know if he's actually using them live or not. And if he's using those live, that is a whole element of danger to your model railroading.
Yeah. I mean, not only can you have fun, but you could potentially die.
You could potentially, you could actually zap yourself right into the next realm.
That's awesome. Chris, if you're out there, why don't you share a little update on the catenary lines there? What's going on with the overhead lines? We need more info on this. Good stuff. Tony Dixon, another one. Uh-oh. We're getting the Army together here.
Yeah.
Looks like he's 3D printing. Getting ready to 3D print an Army. David Winther. Let's see here. I have a mess
that doesn't
on my
count.
workbench. Too many projects at once. Look at how lovely his workbench is here.
That's a mess. Come on,
my God.
David.
I'm embarrassed now.
That's not a mess.
But look at what he's doing though. So he's got, looks like we're doing some caboose painting here on an Overland caboose, and looks like he's putting in a decoder here on a motor car.
And he's watching the Second Section podcast, obviously.
Yeah, so you get bonus points for that for sure.
Yeah,
that you get the bonus points for, but look at all this space. Oh my God. But we got taco sauce. He gets bonus points for the taco sauce as well.
Yeah.
In the background there, you see that? Ooh, we got nice tower back here too. You do have a lot of projects going on.
But there's so much available space.
Yeah.
It's poor utilization of space is what I think that is.
Oh.
There's not enough projects on there.
Oh.
There's no soda bottles. There's no.
Well, now he's got a glass here.
Okay.
And, in a random cleaning, looks like a
yeah,
Windex.
I suppose.
I mean, there's some good random stuff in here.
But a magnetic tool holder, those belong on the tabletop.
Yeah, just take them down and throw them out here. But
randomly anywhere.
Yeah, but let's get back to the modeling here. So this caboose is turning out really good.
Yeah, he's an extremely good painter.
Yes. I wish I had the courage to paint brass.
I tell you what, it's yeah.
I feel like everybody knows a guy who can paint brass. Like there's always that one person that you just kind of go back to, like, oh yeah, I won't dare paint a brass model, but I know a guy who will.
But if I give it to so and so,
yep,
he'll take care of it for me. Yep.
Right. Oh, here we go, and then we got John Whithouse here. Summer project on the workbench, modeling the Apache Railways Elko roster.
I believe he just got 4 of those things.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been following his progress on that too.
This guy's a machine.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, here, let's see. Philoloco, I'm going to butcher the last name. Either Aloco or Alaco. The raccoon lines here. He's got a ex Amtrak CF7 for
Love
the
that.
freelanced road. Got a nice little load in the gondola there. That's pretty cool. And that's interesting with the ex Amtrak loco. That's pretty cool. I like that. You don't see that a lot.
That is really
Very
cool.
And he's got so much space on. I mean, random Q-tip here for a point, but there's a lot of space. There's a lot of
Yeah.
projects we could be putting on there. But thanks, Phil, for sharing. Nice locomotive. All right. And here we got looks like an update here. Now we're talking. We're starting to fill the workbench up with some nice projects here. We got the paper towel tube as the model holder. I've done that in the glass.
The glass, yeah.
Yep. Nice stand there. Nice paint scheme here for the raccoon lines here. And this is another CF7. CF7, very cool locomotive.
Yep, they call it the ugly duckling for a reason.
They did. And it looks like he's got some old blue box bay window here, cabooses, and ready to go. Cool. And here's a picture of Phil's fleet. Looks good. And we got a lot to get through yet. Nathan Crabb, here he's working on patching 2 Walthers Wabash Valley boxcars to Green Bay and Western.
Yep.
Also a Sioux pulpwood gun in the works to go along with detailing Wisconsin Central 3026. Too much going on. He's got a lot going on, but there's a lot of space here. But this Sioux parts gun looks pretty awesome.
Those are pretty nice.
They are. Nice job, Nathan. This loco is very cool. The 3026.
Oh yeah.
Did you ever ride in that one?
Once or twice.
Once or twice?
Yeah, once or twice.
Working on the road bridge scene here. Mike Slater tuning in. Now he's got, looks like a 115 Charlie. I'm going to guess as an F9.
Probably an F7, I believe it is. Or
F7.
it might be an F9.
Now, Mike, do I spy? Is that one of the new Rapido Caprice Classic Woody Wagon boxcars?
It could be. It could be.
Let's check that out.
That bridge is coming along pretty nice.
Yeah, well done, Mike. Oh, Mike's got another one here. North Shoreline brass car ready for decals. Wanting to get this completed for the RPM meet in St. Louis. Mike's going down to the RPM meet too, so look out for Mr. Slater. Sure you talk to him. He's a fantastic modeler and a good guy just to hang out with. Did someone ask about Lincoln pin couplers? Of course, Mike would have something on that.
Yep.
Alexander Models. There he goes. And Tony Dixon doing again here. So he printed up we got some dogs here.
Yep. Guy taking pictures.
Yeah. Reese Caston. And he's got a couple of Accurail kits to finish here and a couple of flat cars detailing a Burlington Northern SD 40-2 from Scaled Trains. I can't imagine what more detail you would put on that locomotive, but if someone's going to find it, it'd be Reese.
Yep.
So very cool. A lot of space on the workbench here. But yeah, you can put a few more projects on there for sure. Very good. Thanks for sharing, Reese. All right. So here we almost to the bottom here. We got, and then Brian Doherty, he's got a question about some soldering. Hopefully Kevin Marks, friend of the podcast, can help him out with that. So there were a few other posts on the What's on Your Workbench that were really, really awesome tonight. They're under the hashtag What's on Your Workbench for posts. Let me see here, maybe a couple. So Adam Bunkelman here, he's got, what's on my workbench. Look at this, the Homer Simpson on the auto rack here by Circus City Decals. This is one of my
That's
favorite,
awesome.
my favorite, like tag graffiti
Yeah,
things
that
for
one's
that.
awesome.
Yeah. And then he's got looks like he's doing some patch outs on some ex Chicago Northwestern Rock Island cars there for, looks like HCL or HCMX. Can't read, my eyes are bad. But yeah, Adam does some fantastic work. He's a very good modeler. Let's see who else. Raymond Stewart added one here under hashtag once on your workbench. He's working on a kit bashing for his shelf layout, taking one of the Walthers transfer buildings and making it into a background scene. It's good
That's
work
cool.
here. Yeah. Let's see who else posted what's on the workbench. Michael Shanky. He's looks like we're doing some track planning here.
Yep.
While he's waiting.
I've got to talk to him
wanting
this
to represent
later
Foxy.
this week. I got to talk to him later this week. He asked me for a little bit of help, advice on how to do that. He's going to put that as a shelf layout over the top of his existing layout. So
yes,
it's going to be kind of interesting to see how he does that. It's going to be really cool.
Yeah. So that's what's on everyone's workbench. That is
Fantastic,
that
guys.
was really good. Really good showing for the section crew tonight. Again, fantastic modeling, really good stuff, and I can't stress how much we appreciate the participation. So, all right, I think it's time to get into the main event here.
Yeah.
Talked about a handful of items, but let's talk about getting into the hobby of model railroading, or getting started, or where do you start? And like William Sampson would say in one of his videos, well, where do you start? At the beginning, right? But yeah, where do you start, Mike? What's the bar to entry for model railroading these days?
Nowadays, there's so many different distractions, I should say, is a way I like to put it. I mean, you have so many electronic distractions nowadays that to get into the hobby, you really have to be able to look around and see what's going on. If you say you're like my age, it goes like me, then dirt, then God. That's how old I am. It's one of those things where if you just stop and take a look at what's going on around you and kind of get involved with some, like maybe a model railroad club, to help get, garner some ideas as to how to start getting your research done and how to find the things.
Okay.
I think maybe joining a model railroad club or a railroad group of some sort online, checking things out online, and
Sure.
finding out what you might like, and what you might not like, and deciding what you want to do, because so often we all have had that grandiose layout idea.
Yep.
And it's never realistic.
What are you talking about? What are you talking
about? It's never. I mean, we all want that. We all want that $1 million layout, right?
Yes, of course.
So I mean, that would be ideal, but I would love to have that. But my space that I have, it does not allow that.
So let me ask you this, right? So what is your model railroad origin story, right? So how did you get into the game here? Like,
I had an unfair advantage.
Okay.
My dad worked for the Milwaukee Road, and
Okay.
when I was 5 years old, he took me down to the depot in Green Bay, and this is no kidding, as a joke. The joke's on him. So, whatever, however many years later,
Yeah.
47 years later, joke's on him. But when I was 5 years old, he took me down to the depot. He needed to do some work. Well, the train from Milwaukee was coming in, and we sat there and watched it come in. And of course, me being 5, I didn't know anything about taking pictures or anything or paying any attention. I was just, ooh, hey, look at the train. And so I was all cool like that and all happy to just saw a train. And as soon as it stopped, he had me walk right up next to the boxcar. Well, I didn't know it was a triple valve. I didn't know what that did. I mean, nothing like that. He had me walk right next to the side of the car. All of a sudden, they stopped. They made their cut, and the air, the part went into emergency, and all that air come out right away, like it does when they go in emergency. And I jumped back, and I looked up at him. I'm like, Dad, that was awesome. Make him do it again. Make him do it again. And then from that moment on, whenever he'd go down to Milwaukee, he'd run over to a hobby shop down there when he laid over. And almost every single trip, he started bringing me back Milwaukee Road hoppers, or he'd bring back an engine, and this is all Athearn Blue Box stuff, or he'd bring back a boxcar or a caboose or whatever it was. So next thing you know, it was, the ping pong table turned into a layout thing is going on, mixed with the 4x8 sheet of plywood, and that was how I got started. Is I had the unfair advantage of having a father who recognized that I really enjoyed this and had, also took me down there quite often. And it was just since the age of 5, I've been involved in the hobby in some state, but that's where I started. So I kind of feel like my story is atypical of most.
Well, let's put that to the test. So for the folks that are still hanging out with us here in the chat, what was, fire away, what was your origin story? How did you guys get started in model railroading? Was it something similar to Mike, where you got exposed to the real thing, right? And basically it's like getting bit by the radioactive spider, and then all of a sudden you turn into Spider-Man, right? What was that point when you kind of turned into a model railroad superhero of sorts, where you that inflection point, or that, what was the switch or the hook for you? So Mike, that's really kind of a cool story. No, I mean, I've never heard it. So that's like, for me, this is the first time I've ever heard this, where you, you tell how you got hooked into not just railroading, but model railroading. And I think that's really cool, because I think it takes something like that, a real memorable moment that you just want to hang on to forever, and you can do that by with model trains. So that's really cool.
And then that kind of manifested itself into Nathan Crab's dad and I were best friends growing up. We lived just a couple houses down from each other.
Oh, cool.
So we hung out all the time. So I ended up corrupting him into the hobby, because we'd take our bikes down and go and see the Northwestern, or go see the Milwaukee Road, or whatever. We'd go and drive down, of course, almost never having a camera.
Right.
We just would go down there. We'd never, who'd have thought of it? It's always going to be there. And so that, manifested itself into that. And now watching Nathan do the stuff that he does, it's just that whole circle just keeps on going. It just keeps getting bigger. Yeah. I mean, how did you get started in it?
Well, so Tim Moran, he watched trains. He watched the C&W Milwaukee Road Sioux Line and the North Shore as a kid. How could I not take up model railroading? So he's got the exposure, right? Obviously that exposure to the big, the big scale, right? That fascination drew him in. We're starting to get some really good comments here in the chat. Tony Dixon, what really got me into modeling was going down and hanging out outside the window of Caboose Stop Hobbies in Cedar Falls, Iowa, watching Tony Bowen building a beautiful HO scale layout that they had. So that's interesting. Tony watching someone getting involved
Yeah.
and modeling and enjoying the modeling aspect as opposed to the one-to-one real the real exposure to a real train here. So we got John Benicki, or is it Benickel? No, Benicki. It's two eyes there, it looks like. I had a kid show me an N-scale F7 decorated for Santa Fe way back in 1973.
Oh,
And I
that's
just
awesome.
loved it. Saved my money and bought a Tyco set a month later, which is still going today.
That is awesome.
Yeah, this is cool because, I mean, first of all, whose first train wasn't a Santa Fe? Mine was. So, but we'll talk about that in a second. Tom Klamoski got started with the Lionel train set and has always enjoyed seeing the prototype trains. Also built a model train set on a ping pong table.
See, is there a ping pong table? Because see, those ping pong tables were two halves, right? So you could actually, and they were oblong, they weren't perfectly square, so that you could actually reconfigure. We actually had ours on two different tiers.
Yeah.
With ramps going up and down, coming back.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was kind of slick.
Let's see here. So Clark Kooning says same as Thomas K, right? So he must have started with a Lionel set as a kid. I'm guessing he got that for maybe Christmas.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wonder, did you maybe a question to Clark? Do you have interest prior to getting that Lionel set? Did you have that exposure? Were you excited? Always interested in the trains? I don't know. David Winther, Uncle had a large HO scale layout, and we had an N scale layout. Uncle took me around Fond du Lac, photographing trains when I would visit. Many pics of the C&W and Sioux. Many of the pics are in the C&W and Sioux historical archives. And I think David is doing the C&W in Fond du Lac, and is going to be doing the Fond du Lac depot. So I'm a C&W guy, along with my freelance railroad that I'm doing here with the Mascoutin Valley. I think the Fond du Lac depot is one of the coolest depots out there right now. So if you just Google some pictures of that, super cool. David's going to be modeling that. Joe DeLusso, let's see here. It says, gave me his Lionel set from there, got into Tyco trains, like with Mike O. We set it up on the ping pong table. So starting to see a trend here. We're seeing a trend. To be a good model railroader, you must have started either with a Lionel set or a ping pong table.
Now, I asked this too. How many guys started their layout with a 4x8 sheet of plywood on a pool table? I saw guys do. I've seen guys do that. Because put it over the top. Yeah, this made me laugh. You're welcome, Nathan. Anytime, Crab. Buddy.
and setting you up for financial difficulties. John Benicki says he still has the train. Raymond's Trains. My granddad worked for a short time for the PRR. My dad worked as a news butch on a passenger train in the early 60s and was pretty much born into the hobby and stayed with it. That's cool. So he's got
another one. Prototype Railroad family got him into the hobby,
Yeah. Dodo One Ops. Mine is a long story. All right. Well, we're not short-winded here. So feel free to tell it. Tom Klamoski, my ping pong table was in my bedroom and I had to sleep under the layout. That's cool. Let's see here. Tom Holly, January 1969, John Allen's model railroad cover story is what got him into model railroading. That's pretty cool.
Very
Justin
cool.
My first one was the Sioux line. It's
Yeah.
okay.
And
It's
if anybody knows Justin, that shutter part is very, very appropriate.
Phil Dimmer, 40 years ago, watching my dad's American Flyer train go around the Christmas tree. Interesting. Christmas tree.
There's been a couple of Christmas tree things already mentioned. Yeah.
Joe DeLuso, ours was set up on a pool table.
Oh, nice. There.
Yeah. Let's see here.
Separated of ping pong tables.
And added the plywood between.
Yep.
So we're expanding, right? First layout's expanding. Tim Rand started with Lionel, then dropped it when I saw real train switching, and my Lionel didn't been HO scale ever since. Soko Olds 455, always liked trains. Got a set when I was a kid for Christmas. Got out of the hobby in high school, as you do, and I moved north to work for CP Rail, and I needed a winter hobby, and it snowballed. That's clever. Winter hobby, snowball.
Yep.
I get it. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Happy Valley Hobbies got an 027 nickel plate at 1 year old. Set it up every Christmas. Let's see here. Tony Dixon, didn't hurt that he lived in Mona Junction for the Chicago Central and Pacific Railroad also. And let's see here. Clark comes back with a response, says, yes, I've always liked large machines, and the movement of the railway was a draw. So it's I think there's something to do with the fascination of the 1-to-1 there. Dodo One Ops. My grandfather was an accountant for the Frisco and had a 3-rail O scale around the Christmas tree. When he died in 1959, my grandmother kept it, kept the plywood layout in the basement. So that's
cool. That's very cool.
Here we go. I think we got a new one here. Tom Klomoski, hashtag ping pong table train set. I think that's gonna be a trend here. Ping pong table train set, new band name, I call. All right. And then Dodo Ops again coming back, says in 1961, my dad bought me an HO Lionel space set with an Alco F1 for the engine in CNO and a three pipe flat car, satellite launch car, and a radioactive waste car, and a CNO work caboose.
That's cool.
How Lionel had those odd adaptations for their train sets. Yeah. Chris Bell, dad had a Lionel set from the 50s. We got a Bachmann set as a kid in the 70s. And then I finally got into N-scale kit on clearance from KB Toys in the 1980s.
Toys. Wow.
I've gotten some back in the day. I've bought some stuff from KD Toys, saved up when I was working on the farm. I got paid $2 a wagon to unload hay bales and saved up. We did 10 wagons, and I bought a Chessie System GP38 for $20 at KB Toys. I'll never forget it.
KB Toys used to be the place to go to get stuff like that at one point, because you didn't really have things like we do now.
Yeah. And then over the years, back to Dodo One Ops.
Speaking of devil, or
yeah, there you go. All right, Chris Bell grew up watching trains in Marshalltown, Iowa, another C&W area there. When we were there, 4 lines running in and out of town. Once in N, I started hanging out with the DMN track folks. Let's see here. The story continues here for Dodo One Ops. In May 1973, went to the local hobby shop, bought an HO scale Great Northern Gondola. It was GN 40-foot boxcar, blue box, and the copy of the May 1973 RMC, Railroad Model Craftsman. What a good magazine.
Yep.
Justin says, I'll post my beginning in the group for tomorrow for those who want the details. It's a bit too long in the chat restrictions. All right. Joe DeLuso, Kmart had lots of Tyco products. Let's see here. Nathan Crabb comes back and says, suppose I should actually answer the question. My dad and I have been working on a layout since I was young, and the Clearblock Productions WC DVD series inspired me to model the WC. Very cool. Thanks, Nathan. So I guess I'll share mine. So how I got into trains was I some of you may know the story, some of you may not. I grew up on a branch line of the Chicago Northwestern, and my grandparents lived on that same branch line, a town down. So basically, every time I would either go to my grandma and grandpa's or, hanging out at home, the Chicago Northwestern would run past my house, my grandma and grandpa's house. And yeah, I'd go outside and watch the trains. And I think that's how I got interested in it, right? The interest was there because, seeing these giant green and yellow hulking machines trundle down some decrepit railroad tracks at about 10 miles an hour. And the box cars that they're hauling are rocking back and forth, because, how the track is all spaced out and in bad shape. And yeah, I think that was just really interesting. And of course the engine, I think the key to all of this was the engineer always saw me running out of the house, running by the tracks, and he always gave me an extra toot of the horn. And I think, and a wave too, and the conductor and the caboose always gave a wave too. So I think just having the crew kind of, be nice to be acknowledged that I was there, and it really got me into railroading. And then of course, I got my first Tyco set, right? Maybe when I was 8 or 9. And we set it up on a piece of 4x8 OSB plywood. And that was it. And we've had, my dad worked with me in the hobby, and that's been it ever since. So yeah, that's my origin story.
That's cool. And I think today, a lot of kids today are going to end up with a similar story to yours.
Yeah.
To be real honest with you, I mean, because today the trains are bigger, faster, longer, right?
Yep.
It's not very often. I mean, you have railroads like the Escanaba Lake Superior and some of the Foxy lines and things like that.
The
Watco stuff where it's kind of trundles back and forth 10 mile an hour here or there.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is like, I know Nathan very well, and know he has a whole bunch of his buddies that they go out and they'll go and have gotten very much into the photography aspect of it.
Yep.
To begin with, and that, and now, like you saw before, Nathan's turning into a really good modeler, and his, but they'll go out and do all this really cool photography and capture some scenes that they can go back and recreate. And I think that, like, between the digital media that we have available today is such an advantage for anybody wanting to get into the hobby, that when we started the hobby, if we'd have had the access to the information we do now back then, it would be a completely different ball game. It would be really different.
You think so?
I think absolutely, because I think there's more information about a lot more things out there, and you have access to people, and people are more willing to share their information and knowledge nowadays than they would been back then. Because I mean, I've been involved in a couple of groups where, like, the old timers were kind of like, well, you'll figure it out, everything was a guarded secret, right? And you kind of had to figure out the secret on your own, and that doesn't do anything. It's kind of like what you were saying, the engineer and the conductor always waved, right?
Yeah.
Whenever I'm with somebody, and even today, my conductor, I tell him, I said, hey, wave at the kid out here. I said, that's your only job you got to do all day long. I don't care about switching cars. The most important job you have to do is to wave at that little kid, because then that little kid, like we actually have it's not really a preschool, but it's a day. It's like a 4K kind of thing where they actually line up in a parking lot and and they want to race the train. They run alongside the train. Like, they start at one end of the parking lot, and as we go, so I slow down and I dropped at generator field, and I always pull the throttle out to make it sound like I'm really going. And the kids, it's weird. They always win.
Yeah.
And then they stop, and then we keep on going. I give them a couple of toots of the horn and everything, and they're waving and jumping and laughing, and the teachers are they're waving and everything. And whenever they're out there, they always do it. And my theory on that is kind of similar to what your story is one of these days, one of those kids or those kids are going to go back to their mom and dads and say,
right,
the train guys, we beat the train guys again today. They tooted the horn at us. They waved at us. They did this, they did that. Those guys are, whatever. And it's not only is it good PR for, us doing our job, but
right.
it also, in a little certain way, might trigger a passion or a memory down the road when they get older and say, you know what, I might want to try that as a hobby. It always makes me feel good to see the little kids jumping up and down and laughing and stuff like that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, it's kind of neat.
So what kind of, so let's say let's say I'm a teenager, right? And we talked about the club, and going and seeing stuff and things of what you like, what you don't like. What are some other resources out there that a person that's just getting into the hobby, where could they go?
The local hobby shop.
You go to the local hobby shop. There you go. Okay.
It's usually a good place. There's usually train guys floating around there.
So what about, we got all this information, right? So, and we certainly got different types of media, right? So I'm going to make a shameless plug here for some, if you're new to the hobby and you don't know where to go or you want some help to get started, our Facebook group, Second Section Podcast, there's a great group of modelers in there, always willing to help out. But if that's not your scene, there's other Facebook groups, other groups on like Yahoo groups that you can go out and get information on how to get started. And I think there's even organizations like the World's Greatest Hobby, right? They have a couple of pages, and even some of the magazines, can talk about, what to do when you get, just getting started in the hobby and where to go.
And don't be afraid if you're brand new and you want to, if you're trying to get into the hobby, don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah.
If you're new to the hobby, the worst thing anybody that's been in hobby, this goes for almost anything, to be honest with you, whether it's a job or whatever, but the worst thing that somebody could possibly do is talk down to you like you should know everything already. Like you're just getting started. Nobody should try to make you feel like that you don't know because they've been in it for 30 years. That's not cool. So ask questions, and if somebody starts acting like that towards you, just turn your back to them and then go ask somebody else. And eventually you're going to find the right group of people that will help. And there's more good guys in this hobby than there are bad guys in this hobby.
For every one turd you get, there's going to be 10 good dudes. So
there's going to be
girls, so. Yeah, so Raymond's Trains brings up an interesting point here. Train events, train shows, right? That's a really good place to get started.
Yeah. We used to have one at the Armory down in Appleton that was always busy. It was just a little swap meet thing, but it was always filled with people I'd never seen before and didn't recognize. And there was always a lot of really good deals. So if you can find like a swap meet and you just wanted to grab a couple of things kind of on the cheap to try to play around with, those swap meets are really good places. Like you said, it's a non-railroad environment, it's just a swap meet,
Yeah. And
this is a good point.
Yeah. So Joe DeLusso, don't forget the how-to books and the Model Railroad Press. Mine was Model Railroader Magazine.
Yep.
Mine was also Model Railroader Magazine.
Yeah, as was mine. Yep.
So and even some of the older Model Railroad issues from way back when in the 60s and even in the 50s. They had some interesting articles, and all those Kalmbach how-to books to get started are really, really, really um, good places to start. And again, Kalmbach doesn't sponsor us by any means, but they have some really good guides. My first book was the ABCs to Model Railroading.
Yeah.
And I think it was. Oh, go ahead. It was.
No. I was just going to say White River with Railroad Model Craftsman also, and some of the other magazines that they have are another good resource.
Yeah, and I think from a something to to do. If you're not really into the scene of hanging out with people and you want to kind of do it on your own, reading a book or reading blogs on the internet is a really good way to learn about and get into the hobby. Now, this is an interesting one down here that Clark Kooning brings up, and he goes, local modelers who will mentor. And I think that's a good point. There are when I was growing up, I did have a mentor. He was a shipbuilder, though. He wasn't a model railroader. And he was a master model shipbuilder. And I learned a lot from him, and kept my interest in the hobby, because he's always asking me, hey, how's it going? Stuff like that. So I think mentorship is kind of if you're new, don't be afraid to hang out with someone and try and learn from them. I know, like, I've done that. I'm still doing that with the guys that I hang out with.
Absolutely.
Present company included, Mike, just so you know.
Well, no, absolutely. I mean,
it's
if we can't, once you gain these friendships, if you can't start to feed off of each other, right? That's kind of the whole name of the game. We're all basically on the same team. It's just how we interact and how we help each other is what the important part is. I mean, obviously some of us are much better at this than others.
Yeah, for sure.
But like I said earlier, 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, you never would have seen me or caught me trying to scratch build almost anything. Now that's my go-to. And
right.
I actually have, like, I have you and I have Luke to thank for that.
Right.
And it just basically kicking me in the butt saying, just go do it, and if you fail, it's really funny. And I'm gonna throw this out there, and I know you'll probably laugh, but I ran across one of those little short meme type videos on YouTube.
Okay.
And it was of Sheldon Cooper and Amy, his girlfriend Amy, watching a video of his dad. They were trying to find something out, and it was actually a video of him coaching. This is on Big Bang Theory, but it was of him coaching a football game.
Really?
And it was a halftime speech, and he said, "You're going to learn more from failing than you ever will by being successful. But if you quit, you're not going to learn anything."
There you go.
And I think that's really important. It's a really important message, because being afraid of failure is something inherent in the human psyche, right?
Yep.
And so being new to a hobby, that can be really intimidating. Model railroading is actually a very intimidating hobby to try to get into. I think almost any hobby is intimidating at the beginning. And like Clark said, though, I think it's really important that you find the right people to be around that's going to help you grow as you move on than you will anything else. And if you don't learn how to do anything else in the hobby, learning how to make friends and and learning from those friends is, to me, the most important part of it. I mean, Justin is a good example. Him and I
Yep.
joke about stuff all the time. You know,
Right.
I'm always ripping on his stuff and he's always ripping on mine, but I know for a fact he's a hell of a modeler and he knows the same, and he's always told me the same thing back.
Right.
And but we get a group of 5-10 of us, it's game on. You
Yeah, it
know,
gets out of there's
it gets out of hand in a
right,
hurry.
you know, but it's like but there again, you guys have been around each other for
Oh,
a while, right?
long
And
time,
right, so
20 plus years.
you
Yeah.
know the personality and stuff like that. So like, a guy like me coming in new to the group, you're not going to come out and point and say, geez, boy, did you use your wife's makeup to weather that car? And just
Well,
it
you know
looks
me,
like
I
it
would
looks
say
like the
that
blue
though.
mascara, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be anything like that. But again, it was just interesting. So
No, it's a very valid point. It's a really,
yeah.
really good point.
And there's a point that was brought up, and I'll say this, that because that information is so readily available nowadays, like there's so much good content out there. So like, for example, if you and there was a comment, I think, and again, I don't mean to just keep airing what Clark is saying, but it's a couple of interesting points, right? So he talked about, well, you have to have some basic skills. Okay, sure. But like carpentry, for example, how many woodworking channels are there out on YouTube now that are just fantastic? How do I use a table saw? How do I use a skill saw? How do I use a screw gun? How do I use an air nailer? Those types of things, so they can build those basic skills up. Same with electricity and some of the other stuff. Now, when it comes to things like LCC and okay, that's going to take some time to figure out. However, just getting in the door, you can learn your basic carpentry skills. You don't have to go out and invest a lot of money to do that. And so long as you can get the materials and the tools, or friends with tools to help you build it, I think you could get started. I think you can get started, and the
Yep.
bar is not it's not so low, or it's not so high that you can't get started, especially with some of the sets that are coming out now from Bachman, and the easy track. It's just plug and play basically, and you got some really cool stuff
Well, you
coming right out of the
take a
box.
look at your bench work, for example.
Mhm.
There's nothing. I mean, you're an excellent carpenter to begin with, but the thing is there's really nothing overly difficult about the way your bench work is designed. It's pretty much a series of rectangles, honestly.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
and then if you look at like what's right behind you, that looks, I mean, I know how it's built. I've seen it built. That looks far more complicated in construction than what it actually is.
Yeah, it's
and there again, the intimidation factor. Somebody comes down and looks at that and says, "Oh my God, I'll never be able to do something like that." Well, you know what? Yeah, you will. It begins with not saying I can't do this. Though you should never use the word, if you're beginning in a hobby,
right.
do not ever use the word I can't, or the words I can't, because that you're setting yourself up for failure before you even give yourself a chance to try. And if you do fail, so what? We've all done it.
I've failed 5-6 times building layouts and stuff just in the last 3 years.
Oh, right. No, here's one thing that's interesting that we haven't talked up, but we've talked quite a bit about the psychological portion of getting started to a certain degree. And here's the as far as I'm concerned, this is the hot button topic in the whole situation, or the whole thing. The financial portion of it.
Ooh.
It's not your grandfather's hobby anymore. I mean, you're not gonna. It's everything has become elevated. The level of detail, the level of how much everything costs,
Right.
all of those things. So at what does that become? Now we talked about going to swap meets earlier, which, as far as I'm concerned, if you're trying to get into the hobby, that's the way you go. Do not, I mean, you can go to your hobby shop, and I'm all for everybody, doing that and spending however much you want there. But economically, that is not your first choice of getting into the hobby, as far as I'm concerned, because at a swap meet, you could get 2, 3, 4 box cars for the price of one brand new one at a hobby shop, and getting into stuff and getting your feet wet before you go and start spending that $60 a car just to find out that you don't like being in the hobby. Well, I mean, honestly, it's just that it has the cost of things in the hobby made it more difficult for those who have wanted to get into the hobby.
So I'm gonna share the thumbnail for this podcast. What I'm talking about here. So here's a picture of my son, right? And he has his first train here, and here's about 8 feet of track, of flex track. These are on some of the Fremo modules that I've been building. But this locomotive here is it's an old AHM
right?
Mountain 482. These are blue box reefer cars and a blue box caboose. And him and I would spend hours down in the basement on these Fremo modules with a very basic DCC system that, guess what? These don't have DCC installed in it.
Right.
They're just, we ran it off of the DC, channel on the DCC system. And we would run it back and forth for hours and switch cars out. And I would teach them, some of the stuff about, okay, we're going to park the caboose over here and dump the hopper or the reefers over here and pick up the caboose and come out of town. And we would spend hours doing that. And this setup, we could have done this with, we could have got all this stuff at a swap meet.
Right. And that's kind of, I guess that's kind of my point, is the fact that, how can I put it? The manufacturers want you to buy their stuff, right? But they're not producing things for the people that are just trying to get into the hobby. They're producing things for the veterans in the hobby. They're the ones that, have, they know what they're looking at. They know what they're trying to accomplish, stuff like that. The people that are trying to get into the hobby don't have a clue on, for the most part, most of this stuff. They don't know what's available, what's not available. So like I say, if you can find Athearn blue box stuff or old model die casting kits or like go to swap meets. A lot of guys already have those same
or
cars
train
already,
shows.
or train shows. A lot of guys have that stuff. A lot of guys have that stuff already put together. Most of them have KD couplers on them. KD couplers used to be a big thing. Now it's kind of a standard thing. It's kind of like the old horn hook or old horn hook.
X2F, right?
The X2F, yeah. So, if you're trying to get into it, swap meets, man, train shows, swap meets.
Where do you get your stuff? Yeah,
where do you get your stuff? Get it cheap and get into the hobby and see what you like about it. See what you don't like about it. I mean, there's things that I can't stand about the hobby, to be honest with you. But yet they're necessary evils. Like, I'm not exactly the best solderer in the world. So dropping feeders to me is just something I have to do. And since I hand lay my track, I kind of forcing myself to have to learn how to do it. Doesn't mean I like it. I'm just doing it because I have to, right? So, but I mean, that's just my opinion. That's, one person's opinion.
Yeah. So I've flashed this comment up here before, and Split Rock kind of brings up an interesting comment here. So there's a right way to do this hobby. Well, Mike, is there?
No,
Yeah, there's not.
there's
It's
not.
the right way to do it is, in my opinion, the right way to do it is the way that allows you to have the most fun.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's not worth doing. So you can go and we're just, again, here tonight, we're just trying to give you guys suggestions. If you're new to model railroading and you happen to stumble across this podcast, what are some ways that you can get in early and have some fun? Sure, you're not going to be able to do everything that was talked about tonight. And Tom Klamoski kind of gives some advice, and to get started, build a small layout, learn some skills, make mistakes, learn from them, have fun. And I think
Absolutely.
and that's the last thing. If obviously, if you don't enjoy doing it, you'll figure it out pretty quick. But I think with the folks in the comments section tonight, you and I are both kind of preaching to the choir,
Right.
But again, for the folks that are new that want to get into it, it's a tremendously fun and rewarding hobby. It's the right way to do it is the fun way, and I think this comment kind of says it all together. If you're enjoying model railroading, then you're doing it right. It doesn't matter if you like horn hook couplers or KD, or if you like highly detailed models, or your old Athearn blue box, which I still have some.
Even if you like the Sioux line, you're still all right.
See, you crossed the line there, Mike. You crossed the line.
I know I'll get a couple of comments on that one.
Yeah, but I think that's Split Rock. That was a really good point and comment that I wanted to labor, because there's been some discussion in the chat, and some opinions on what we should or shouldn't do, and that's all well and good, but there is no right way to build it. And I see a lot of signs when you go to people's model railroads, rule number 1, it's my layout. Rule number 2, if you don't like rule number 1, get the heck out, right? So just remember that, have fun with it, and like with any hobby, you just grow your skills, and know that there's a huge community out here that's willing to help, bounce ideas off of, possibly give some constructive criticism, possibly end up being lifelong friends. So there's a lot of opportunity in this hobby.
Believe it or not, I'm actually experiencing this exact thing with my speeder rebuild.
Ooh.
I am, because I bought it. I didn't know what the heck I was doing with it. I just wanted one, and I bought it. And then I started getting involved in some of these communities and asking questions. And now I've started to form some friendships with people. And if I just, it's really been enlightening as a model railroader to see, when I'm trying to build something that actually happened was used on a real railroad, that the community for that, like was being said earlier, you've got a couple of people that can be jerks about stuff, but for the most part, for every one of those, you have 10 or 15 people, screaming to try to help you, because
Right.
they want you to be successful.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what the name of the game is 'cause I'm starting to have a blast starting to do this thing. I'm learning about small engines. I'm with things that I never was good at doing before. I knew a little bit, but not on this level. And it's kind of made me feel more confident about where I'm going down the road. I know I have a long way to go, but and so, like, same thing with your, starting out on a hobby, it's like Klamoski, Tom was saying, just say, build something, have fun, enjoy yourself. The speeder hobby is a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. and it is I'm still not sure what I've gotten myself into, but I'll let you know. I'm letting you know that there may be putt-putt noises coming to a theater near you very soon, but we'll see how it
Pixar
goes.
didn't happen, Mike.
No, I know. But but seriously, before we start wrapping things up, it's about the community that and the people that are and the fun that you're willing to surround yourself with, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, yeah, there's, I think the with all the information that's out there, the bar to entry is starting to get much, much lower, right?
Yep.
And I think there are some organizations and communities out there that are really good at facilitating, the development and growth of folks in the hobby. And I think that's they're out there. Do your research nowadays. It's just everything's out on the internet, right? And then, like I said, find your favorite community and just really dive in and hang out, because I've hung out with my community's fairly large now. I got the folks at the Chicago Northwestern Historical Society. I got all of the section crew now with the podcast, and and then of course the local modelers here in Northeast Wisconsin that have been there pretty much since I came back to the hobby, and they're lifelong friends, and I'm really, really enjoying it, and just continue to grow and have fun with it.
And one other thing too is if you really want to get into seeing where you can go in the hobby, don't be afraid to go to, like we were talking about before, going to these shows. But if you're going to be like down in St. Louis, say, and you want to go in and stop in and see like what some really top level modelers are able to do, and talk to some of these guys, because the RPM meets, if you get a chance to go to one of those, I've never gone to one where a guy has ever given somebody else a cold shoulder when they asked him about how they did something.
That's where I met Tom Klomoski.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
We talked for 20 minutes, after his presentation there. That was fantastic.
And that's exactly it. These guys are some really, really, really outstanding modelers, and they're all willing to help you. They're all willing to share their information, and it's just have fun going to stuff like that, and be the ooh and ah guy. It's perfectly fine,
And that's me. Yeah, I'm still
I
the
tell you
ooh and ah
what,
guy.
I tell you what, real quick, every time I go to St. Louis, that guy, I don't know who it is, the guy that's got that O scale or G scale MKT caboose, on that lowboy trailer, I find something new that I never saw the year before on that thing. Every time it mesmerizes, that model mesmerizes me every single time I see it. And I must have talked to him half a dozen times now, in going there. I think every day I go there, I talk to him about something else, and it's just and it's just amazing, is a prototype model the place for a beginner? You betcha it is, Clark, and I will fight anybody that says it's not.
Again, the Second Section podcast is not responsible for any injuries Mike sustains as a result
after
of
getting my butt kicked by somebody that I said I'll fight. Absolutely,
I'll
it is.
Let me jump in. Yeah, I think it goes back to Tony Dixon's point earlier, where he talked about he talked about being inspired by other modelers. And God, I got a little secret to share. I like tabletop gaming too, right? And I've always wanted to go to one of these meets that they have, just to see all of these tabletop game model painters and and stuff like that, or even the armor modelers, right?
Like the Warcraft guys and stuff like that.
No, like Warhammer 40K,
Oh,
those
Warhammer.
types of,
Okay.
yeah.
Yep.
It's one of these little, I don't know, like just little shoot hobbies that I'm very interested in. But long story short, because we're almost carrying on to 3 hours here. Yeah, I as a beginner into that space, I think it would be awesome to see some of the modeling and ask, hey, how did you do that? And learn just those very basic things and then try them out for myself. So, I think for me that and like when I went to St. Louis, even to Chicago, when I went to the Chicagoland RPM, I don't think I was even close to the modeler that I am today, but I did learn a ton of stuff. And
Yep.
all of those guys are very forthcoming with information. So yeah, but I think it's about time, Mike. Geez,
Some of us work tomorrow.
I don't have to work tomorrow. I get to go fishing tomorrow. So
Oh, tomorrow's my Friday, Wednesday.
yeah.
I go on
Yeah.
vacation after tomorrow. So
Anyways, so we're gonna tie down tonight. So for the night and shut the locomotive down here. And I just want to give a couple of notes. Well, the links that we talked about earlier, I'll try and get them added to the show notes or the description of the YouTube podcast, so you can check that out. All the fun stuff that we talked about there. Again, I want to thank everyone in the chat tonight. We're carrying about 30 people still here to the end, almost 3 hours.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Really, really good chat tonight. And from I absolutely loved hearing everyone's origin story tonight. So thank you guys for sharing.
That was a lot of fun.
That was fun. So thank you guys for sharing, and thank you for sharing on your What's on the Workbench. I really do appreciate that. And if you want to participate in What's on Your Workbench next time, check us out, Second Section Podcast on the Facebook. We're there. You can sign up, get in, and by all means, let us know what you think of the podcast. And we're just having fun here. So want to thank everyone again. Mike, do you have any save rounds, alibis before we hang up?
None. I'm good.
All right, gang. Well, then we'll be back.
Yeah, for everything, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We will be back in 2 weeks. And for those going down to St. Louis, take some pictures, have some fun. If you see Mike there, make sure you say, hey, how's it going? Run up and talk to him. Ask him how to get a t-shirt. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.